welcome to the Recovery Reach podcast, the podcast for behavioral health leaders looking for specific marketing and business tactics that can scale their impact. Our promise is in each episode, you'll learn at least one thing, mostly many things, that you can put into motion this week that will help your business help more people. Today, the second episode with Clint Malley, formerly the Director of Marketing at Sandstone Care, where he helped expand Sandstone to 35 locations across 4 states. Clint is now one of ours. He's the VP of Content at Recovery.com. Let's get into it. Do you believe, evidence-based care, a lot of people might say that. So do you think it's hard to find ways that a center is actually truly different from those competing centers in the area?
No. Usually the behavioral health centers that I've talked to and worked with all have an understanding of the competitor landscape, and they know what everyone else is doing and they know how they compare, right? And if you don't, hey, you need to know. It's like some good homework for you to go and to review, because that's going to be your marketing message, and it's going to help you find the people that you can actually support. And if it's not any of those things, some people don't do evidence-based care. They do things that are really cool and people have been able to say have worked, but don't have a ton of studies behind them, like equine therapy. It's helped a lot of people with autism. There's not a ton of evidence based on it because it's a difficult thing to be able to measure, right? Yoga therapy, same thing, really helpful for a lot of people. I'm not talking about just doing yoga. I'm talking about yoga therapy, helpful for a lot of people. Sound therapy. There's a million things that people and organizations can do that make them different. And it doesn't have to always be cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, motivational interviewing, accelerated resolution therapy. It doesn't have to be any of those things.
Yeah. And I mean, I love calling this out specifically because I find often it's part of a gigantic 3-paragraph section, and these differentiators are little sentences in the middle of those paragraphs somewhere. Yeah. So you may think that you're showing what makes you different, but like Clint says, people are skimming. They are not reading. And if you are burying what makes you different in the middle of a paragraph, it's like a tree falls in a forest and no one hears it.
Yeah, you bring up, let's do like a bonus one, because you bring up an extremely important point, which is about formatting, right? Here's a rule. Have no paragraph on your location page, and really for your blog for that matter, that's over 4 lines, right? 4 lines on desktop turns into 8 to 10 lines on mobile. People are intimidated by big paragraphs of text. They skip over them. So break it up into short sections, use bullet points, use bolded words, use numbered lists. Those things help to organize and to space the information. So it's really helpful for people to be able to consume that. This is called UX, or user experience, right? And there's some basic principles that anybody who's good at UX will be able to do with that. But a key thing is, if you have big, chunky paragraphs, nobody's reading them. And if you have important stuff that's buried in the middle of it, then it's getting lost and people are skipping it.
Yeah. All right. We have a bonus. That was really nice. Thank you for adding that. So we got 16 things on this list. The list continues, still more to come. And I think it's a proper segue into this next one because, well, if I'm not going to say a lot with words because people aren't reading, how do I get across some of these key things about my facility? And the answer is photos.
Yeah.
So let's talk about photos.
Say pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? So you need photos of your facility for people to be able to see. It doesn't have to be a video walkthrough, but it definitely needs to be pictures. Think about anything that's a physical space, especially that's really important for you, that you would go to without actually seeing it. How many of those things would you do? Not like very little. People want to be able to visualize themselves getting care or their loved one getting care. And so you need high quality photos of your facility. A common thing that centers get wrong with this is they make it like a real estate photo shoot, right? In which all of the rooms, it's just like a room with a circle of chairs. And that actually is not helpful. You need to have people in these photos, which presents a unique problem, right? I can't use my clients for these because of HIPAA, and this is not ethical. So how do I get people in my pictures for these photo shoots? I'll give you a really simple way to be able to do it. You can do this in all 50 states. It'd be very simple. It's not going to cost you a ton, and it's going to make your photos look amazing, right? The key is to go to Backstage Casting, right? So backstagecasting.com. You can create a project in which you can enlist local talent. I've done this in many states for different centers, always when we're opening these centers. And you can hire people, diverse backgrounds, ages, experiences. You can qualify your ideal client. So for me, when I was working at Sandstone Care, we did teens and young adults. So I was only getting people who looked like teens or young adults. And we would hire them for 2 hours to do these photo shoots, have them do everyday activities that they would be doing, whether it's a group therapy or nature walks or individual therapy or a med check or all of these different things. We like to hire people of diversity. So many people can say, okay, like I could see myself going to this place. And when you compare the two, like if you look at two centers and one is just like a real estate photo shoot with a circle of empty chairs and things like that, and you compare it to a photo shoot that has a ton of people, it makes it look like it's full of life. Many different types of people can put themselves in those talents' shoes who are in the photo shoot and say, okay, I could see my kid going there, or I could see myself going there. And it adds a lot of quality to your content. And by the way, you can use those photos everywhere. You use them in all your marketing materials, your social media. It's going to be the best money you could ever spend for your location page, for sure.
That's great. And, not every facility looks like White Manor.
Yeah.
And is going to have exotic animals in the background and, beautiful landscapes. So using that site and finding people to fill your chairs is a great way to make the most out of your location, even if it doesn't photograph well, or you think it doesn't photograph well. That's a great tip. What does that cost usually on the top of your head?
Yeah. So we're getting real nitty gritty with this. So I would pay talent usually $100 for a 2 to 3 hour photo shoot. And I would get 8 to 12 people. You don't want to have a ton of people, but you want to have options, and you want to have, and some people will call out. That's going to happen. And so hire more than you think you need. Right. And so it's roughly $800, right? But it's stuff you're going to be using for years and years and years, and it's going to be everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so you want to get that right. It's a necessity.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, moving on. What else? We have a steps section.
Yeah, the steps. So if somebody asks you at your center, what are the steps it takes to work with you? Do you have a clear way to be able to do that? Most people don't. Most people, or if they do, they list out 12 different things. Well, first you got to call, and then we're going to listen to your story, and then we're going to do a biopsychosocial assessment, and then we're going to verify your insurance, and then we're going to schedule an assessment with an intake therapist to be able to qualify you for different levels of care or for mental health challenge. And then we're going to schedule you for intake. And it seems like a lot, right?
I'm lost.
Yeah, it's too much. What if you broke down your entire process and you zoomed out to a macro level and you did it in 3 steps? Be extremely helpful, right? And so that's kind of what you need to do when it comes to your step section. When I worked with Sandstone Care, we said getting started is easy. I got it up here in front of me. It said step 1 is call us. Step 2 is verify insurance. Step 3 is schedule an assessment, right? So if somebody comes up to any of your business development reps or yourself and they say, hey, how do I work with you? First, just call us, we'll verify your insurance, and then we'll schedule an assessment. And of course, there's other steps that happen internally, and there's a lot more that goes into that. We know that the process of somebody getting care is sometimes really long, really complicated, but if you can break it down into 3 steps, then people are much more likely to feel like it's simple and easy to work with you. And again, people are in a really challenging space, and so we want to make it feel simple and easy because so much of everything else in their life is overwhelming.
Yeah, that one makes a lot of sense to me. Let's jump over to Google reviews. This is a hot topic. What do you think about them?
Google reviews. This is, I think, number 7. So number 6 was our steps section. Number 7 is Google reviews. Why are they important? Number 1 is every single location page needs to have a corresponding Google Business Profile, or GBP, right? They show up at the very top of search results when people are looking for rehabs near me. And a key characteristic of whether or not your location page shows up in that map pack, which is the first 3 centers, is how many Google reviews you have. Also, the relevance of the Google reviews, the words of the Google reviews, and if those match the content that's on your page, right? So if people in your Google reviews rave about your residential treatment or your intensive outpatient care, and on your location page, you also have content that talks about residential treatment and intensive outpatient care, Google sees this as very relevant, right? So it works from 2 different sides. One is that it helps people discover your location page via the Google Business Profile. And by the way, your Google Business Profile should link to this page that we're talking about here. And then, since you already have these reviews and it's helping people discover you, put those on your page too. And there's a lot of really simple, what we call review widgets that make this easy. You could think about WhiteSpark. Elf Site is a really good one that creates an AI generated summary of these Google reviews. Some other really cool features you can do when you work with these kinds of review widgets is that you can filter them, right? So we all know that, especially in behavioral health, you're going to get some negative reviews. It's a part of the game. It's a very common thing. It's not about if you'll get them, it's when you get them. And it actually kind of builds some credibility. I'm skeptical of a business that has 6,000 5-star reviews and nobody has said anything negative, right? But I can at least filter the ones that people see on the page. Even if they see it's a 4.7 star, as in Buffalo Grove's Rehab Center, I can at least show only the positive testimonials, right? Mm-hmm. The other cool things that these tools allow you to do is to be able to generate more reviews. So there's a button on most of these review widgets where it asks them an NPS score, a Net Promoter Score question of, out of 10, how would you recommend this business? You can set a parameter in which if somebody says 7 or above, then it will then solicit a Google review from this person. Right. And if it doesn't, if they do like a 6 or below, then it'll say, tell us what was wrong, and it'll give them feedback. And both things are helpful. One gives you stuff that you can improve on. The other just gives you another Google review. But the other part of it is Google is another form of ethos persuasion, right? It's another thing. It's those words and the color and the logo. It shows that these people are verified. They had to have an account with this. They had to put their name with this. And it's much better than just having a slider testimonial of your reviews that somebody told you one day and you put it on your website. It's like, how do you know if that's true? Couldn't they have just made that up? And another thing about these review widgets is that they'll often put the faces of the people who left them, right? Their profile, if they've done that. And so all of those things are really helpful and help the person paint a picture for whether or not, they want to be able to call.
Right on. Whenever we do user testing, the Google reviews or just third-party reviews in general are a crucial part of trust building. So like Clint said, you can have things that you're putting up there, patient testimonials you've gotten, and those are great. Good to have, certainly. But when it says it came from Google or it says it came from another site like a recovery.com review, it adds so much more credibility and believability to that testimonial. We've had people say when they see company created testimonials, I just skip over those. I assume there's something in them and they're only cherry picking the best. All you need is a Google review or recovery.com review, and then use some of the filters and widgets that Clint was talking about to really put your best foot forward. Those are really, really good tips.
One more thing with that, it takes 10 minutes to set up a Google Business Profile, right? Literally 10 minutes. And you need one for every single location page that you have. And you need a location page for every single address that you can receive mail from. So not like a PO box, but if you have an address that can receive mail, you need a location page for it. Sometimes with different places, they'll have a suite A and a suite B. Guess what? You need 2 location pages. Each one of those things need a Google Business Profile. They need a location page connected with it. Sometimes they'll do it with different tracks. Like with Sandstone, you have a mental health track, you have a substance use track, or a dual diagnosis track. And so you need one for each. Why would you not have another shot in which people can discover you, right? So it's very helpful in that way.
Yeah, we should have an entire episode for Google My Business. I think there'd be a lot of insight out of that. Jumping through the list here, number 8 is an important section to have on your page, a what we treat section.
Yeah. So remember the top questions. We have to answer 2 questions is, do you understand what I'm going through and can you help me? Right? A what we treat section answers both. So if you are a substance use center, you need to put the names of the substances that you treat. Not only is this good SEO and keywords for your page, but it also is really helpful for people, right? If you're a mental health clinic or if you do dual diagnosis, you want to put depression, trauma, anxiety. If you don't put schizophrenia, don't put schizophrenia, but put the stuff that you do treat so that people can see it. And oftentimes, if you treat something that's more nuanced, make sure that that's listed too, right? People want to know that you can help them with that. Some really cool things that you can do is create a toggle section. This also helps with like levels of care. So if you're a facility that offers multiple levels of care from detox and inpatient to residential to transitional living and PHP or day treatment and IOP, put a toggle section so that people can click the different levels of care and get an explanation of what those are. Because most people don't have the verbiage or the understanding of what all of these things mean or what all of these substances are, right? So for example, if you're saying stimulants, you'll talk about your cocaine, you'll talk about your heroin, you'll talk about your meth, right? If you're talking about depressants, you'll talk about your benzodiazepines or you'll talk about your alcohol. So really spell it out for people because most people don't need to know about this stuff until it becomes a really big problem for them. And so you have to do some educating as you're trying to persuade people to take action.
Mm-hmm. So next on the list, we've got video testimonials.
Yes, video testimonials are something that every single treatment center needs to have. Why? Why do you think? I'll ask you, Andrew. Why do I come on so strong? Why do you think video testimonials are such an important thing?
Well, I was talking about written testimonials and how those apparently aren't very convincing anymore as we've learned to look for tricks on the internet. But when you see a video testimonial, they're instantly more believable because you see a person who is saying these things to you. But more than that, I think you probably see yourself as that person and they're talking about the same things that you're currently wondering and confused about and considering. So seeing those voiced by someone who went through this experience has to be a big part of my decision to choose your facility.
Yeah. And when I've done user testing and when I've led alumni testimonials, like interviewed people after they've come out of treatment, the words that people said was, I needed to hear my story or my life or my words come out of someone else's mouth to understand that I could actually go to this place, right? Think about that. Everybody who's struggling with a mental health challenge or a substance use challenge thinks that oftentimes that their case is tragically unique, that I'm the only one. And remember, one of the questions that we're answering for this page is like, do you understand what I'm going through, right? And for alumni testimonials or for testimonials, it is the most powerful form of pathos or emotional persuasion. It is a human being who's brave enough and has the courage to be able to share their story so that other people might be willing to get treatment, right? And it's not something it's not text, it's real, it's human. And it also puts human faces on your page, which is helpful. Again, you need human faces on this because this is a place that serves people within the slideshow of your location, within the staff of the people who are treating folks, and also within your alumni. And there's a few different ways that this can happen. I'll give you like 7 really quick questions. These are the ones that I used over and over when I was interviewing alumni. They work really well.
These are questions you would ask somebody as you're filming a video testimony.
Yeah. So, and again, these can be really high production value, or they could be somebody answering these on their phone. Actually, that grittiness gives some credibility with it, where it feels authentic. We've seen those kinds of reviews in other industries. But real quickly, here they are. I'll just kind of rapid fire them out and talk. And while I'm going through this, think about how each one of these could also be a social media clip, right? Each one of these could also be a unique selling point, right? So first question is, what was life like before treatment? When did you know that it was time to get treatment? What were your expectations coming into treatment? Notice that each of these questions is about the problem. And for most people, they need to have the problem spelled out for them, because they think, okay, that treatment will work for them, but it won't work for me. But if you don't talk about the problem in depth with an alumni testimonial, then people will think, well, that's for people who don't have it as bad as me, or people who aren't as depressed as me, or haven't seen the kind of trauma that I've experienced. But when you really dig into the problem, especially at the beginning, not only does it make you want to see the resolution at the end, but it also really lets this person know, oh, this is like serious. Like these people can actually help my problem. It answers that first question is, does this person understand what I'm going through? Question number 4 is, what was the reality? Was your reality different from the expectations? Most people, when they think about rehab or treatment, they see things in movies and in TV shows, and they come into treatment with those things. And it's super helpful to be able to have somebody say, actually, this is way different than I expected. And let me tell you how I was surprised, right? And then what was helpful about the treatment process? People want to know, how is this actually going to make things better? What did you learn in treatment that still sticks with you today? People want to know that treatment is a long-term thing, especially if I'm looking for a loved one. I want to know, like, I don't want my friend, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister to have to go into treatment over and over again. Like, what will give me lasting results, right? What is life like now after treatment, right? You want to paint the pictures to help people visualize the possibility of what life could be outside of mental health challenges or addiction challenges. And then what would you tell someone on the fence about going into treatment, right? And that really helps somebody speak to the person on the other side of the video directly. And they'll say things that have surprised you, say things that you could never write. You couldn't, no copywriter, no matter how skilled they are, can actually put those words into a page. Jeremiah, the co-founder of recovery.com, said the best copywriters are your alumni because they can say things that you as the marketer can't. So for example, an alumni can say, or a testimonial can say, I thought the treatment was going to be boring and that everybody was going to be lame. And I've met some of my best friends here, right? No matter who the copywriter is, they can't write that. They can't do that. That's only stuff that you can get from them, right? And so it's really important. And actually, we realized how important this is for treatment centers. And so one of the cool things at recovery.com that I'm really excited that we're launching is Project Alumni, which is for any treatment center that wants an alumni testimonial, but maybe doesn't have the resources or infrastructure to support that. It's a link, and we'll put it in the show notes or the description box for this video, where you can give it to an alumni, they can click it, they can film, it walks them through all of those questions step by step, and they can film their answers. We'll take it, we'll edit it, we'll put subtitles to it, we'll add music to it, and we'll give it to you so that you can, and it's for free, by the way. You just have to have your profile claimed on recovery.com. And it's something that you can put on your location page and be able to help share that mosaic of recovery, that story, right? Mm. We'll also use it on our social media. And so we'll be able to promote, your center and your story on our social media as well. So it's a win-win for everybody. We're sharing recovery stories. You're having a more detailed location page, and oh yeah, it's free. Like, so there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do that.
Can't beat that. And just real quick, going back into the video testimonials, you mentioned your best copywriters can't be saying the things that the folks from your alumni are going to be saying. That said, a really good tip I've always used is go back through these videos and see what people are saying. Because if what you're talking about on your location page is way different than what everyone who went through your treatment center is thinking about and what they loved, consider adding some of that to your treatment page. You may be focused on the wrong thing, and what people are actually getting from the experience is completely different. And this is almost a form of user testing that you can use.
Yeah, they call it voice of customer data, or VOC. And when I first got into the industry, I knew nothing about behavioral health. I came from the fitness industry. Before that, I was a teacher. Didn't know anything about this. I just listened. Another reason why you need call rail or call tracking metrics for your behavioral health centers, I just listened to the calls of people who were calling for themselves, for loved ones, right? Not only did it give me empathy, but it also gave me verbiage and ideas and things to be able to use on the page, right? Now with AI, you can take those, you can put those through, you can put them through a HIPAA compliant AI filter to be able to aggregate the common themes like a word cloud so that you can see these things that are important to the folks who are looking for treatment, right? And some of the insights that I learned was that one, especially for teens and young adults, it was mostly moms who were calling, right? That's like an easy one to be able to find out. But two, they really wanted like a quick way to be able to determine whether or not it was as bad as they think it is, right? How do I know if this is just like a phase for my teen, or if they really need some support? And so some of the actions that we took is that we created, self-screening quizzes that people could take and were created by a clinician and could get really quick feedback on, oh yeah, like my teen their grades are dropping and they're isolating themselves and there's been a change of friend group and there's emotional outburst. And I've caught them using substances to be able to cope with challenging emotions. I should probably get some help, right? And most people don't get those kinds of clear answers, right? But that came from your point through looking at voice of customer data to be able to determine what we needed to include in our content and the pages that people are visiting.
I love the idea of diving into HIPAA compliant AI one of these days, and all the various use cases that opens up for facilities, especially facilities who are strapped for time and resources. But of course, must continue. We've got a few more, one being FAQs. Let's dive into that.
Yeah, FAQs are really helpful, especially for detox and residential treatment, because people have really specific questions, right? Can I smoke there? Can I have my cell phone? People want to know that, and they don't want to call to find out, similar to price. But connected with that is the Accordion feature, right? An accordion is when you click more on something and it populates more text. Remember, one of the challenges from the beginning that we talked about is we need to include a lot of text within this page, right? How do I do that in a way that doesn't, again, have tons of big blocky paragraphs that people are going to skip over? Well, accordions are really helpful for that. And you can do that in FAQs at the bottom of your page. And if you're like, what are the questions that I need to answer? Type in drug rehab Texas, look at the people also ask section. And if you click on any of those things, more questions will populate. There's probably some questions that you want to answer on that page, right?
Yeah. And Clint, what you're talking about is if you are Googling, oftentimes you'll see a people also ask section with a lot of accordion style frequently asked questions. And what Clint is suggesting is Google something related to what you offer, look at the FAQs, the people also ask section, and consider your responses to those questions and put them on your location page.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, if Google's doing it, you should probably do it too. If they're trying to be really helpful, it's probably something that you should incorporate. Another thing that recovery.com does that I never see other treatment centers doing, and I wish I saw more of this, was that they do a read more accordion style. So at the very top of recovery.com location profiles, they do a 1 paragraph explanation of the center, giving like an overview. And then if you click the read more caret, like 3 other paragraphs populate. So they're hidden by this read more caret. They're still indexed in part of like the search engines when they're scanning the page and that keyword content and the amount of words and all of that stuff. So it's still figured into that page's profile and ranking system, but people only see it if it's something that they want to read more about, right? And for pretty much like if you're thinking about a 1,500 word page, a 2,000 word page, 2,500 word page, how do you put that more content on the page without it being exhaustively long? Well, those read more carets are extremely helpful. That's a sneaky thing. I think a really helpful thing that sneaky is not the right word. A really helpful thing that recovery.com has done that I see almost no other treatment centers doing.
Yeah. So we got the FAQs, which serve both the patient as well as the search engine. And then the next step here, or the next part of your page we're talking about is insurance and making sure you include which networks you are with.
Yeah. So some common questions that behavioral health centers ask is, can I put the logos of insurances that we work with? And the answer is yes, if you were a network with them. If you're a network with them, there's a huge accomplishment, not just on your location page, but on your social media. You should probably be putting this stuff too, because it's really helpful for people. People are looking for things based upon their insurance. That's why recovery.com, like one of the things that we do is we allow people to filter based upon the insurances that they have, because it's so hard for people to do it. It's not transparent. The insurance websites are terrible. Often behavioral health centers don't say this right off the bat. And so include not just the names, but also the logos of those, because again, that's another form of that ethos or quick visual credibility that somebody can say, you accept my insurance, super helpful. So here on Sandstones, they have Humana and Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield and Cigna and United and Anthem. And then they say, and more, to let you know, hey, there's a lot of insurances that we accept, and these are just one of these. So not if you're in a single case agreement with one, like you have worked with them for one of those, but if you are in network, put those in there.
Yeah. And I want to be, you mentioned even include these things on your social media. And just to clarify what you mean by that, is that you're posting about your insurance? Is that you're including the insurance in the tiny little bio that you're allowed within your social media feeds? What do you mean by that?
Make a post now in network with Humana, now in network with Aetna.
Yeah.
All of that stuff helps. Especially you could do a Google business profile post. So some people don't know this, but your Google business profile, the location specific profile for this location, you can make posts just like a social media. What do I put on those? Oftentimes you need to put updates of your facility. You can talk about your levels of care. You can talk about the things that you treat, but you can also talk about the insurances that you're in network with. Why does that matter? Because Google figures in the post, the words, the pictures, all of that stuff when determining which results to be able to show for a query. So if somebody types in rehab with Humana insurance near me, and you have a post on that and it's on your location page, you're much more likely to be able to show up in search results.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting toward the end here, folks.
Almost there.
We're getting toward the end. We're talking numbers now.
Yeah, number 12 is the numbers section. This is the logos form of credibility, this is the logos form of persuasion. This is facts, figures, numbers, statistics, charts, graphs, right? Some people are extremely logical.
Has anyone made an acronym for that yet?
I don't know. It's
a lot of consonants.
It is, but we need to. We'll start that. Give me an acronym for that. But think of it like numbers, right? The best type of persuasions for logos is when I can show a graph that shows that the bad stuff goes down and the good stuff goes up. Usually a line graph or a bar graph. Think about your PHQ-9, your GAD-7, your WHO-5, all of those different assessments that patients or clients get when they're in treatment to be able to see if treatment's working. It's a really helpful thing, right? It's measurement-based care. It's not just saying that you actually help people, but it's being able to show from a data standpoint that's very rare for people that it's working. I like that better than things like, am I still sober? It's really hard to be able to measure that. People lie about it. It's not something that can be really done with fidelity, and it's just kind of complicated. But PHQ-9, GAD-7, WHO-5, not only is that measurement-based care initiative probably going to help you get better rates from insurances, but it's also going to be able to show people that you really know what you're talking about. And for those of you who are like, that's just not where my center's at. I don't have that kind of I don't have anybody who's going to be a director of research and outcomes to be able to do this. What do we do? A really simple way is to be able to think about other numbers that you can showcase in here, right? So you could do things like the number of alumni who have graduated from your facility. You could do the percentage of people who complete treatment, the combined years of experience of your team, right? Over 500 years of experience for our team. How many different treatment modalities you offer? 37 different treatment modalities, 12 different tracks, right? Or the staff to client ratio. If you're a really big executive type of treatment and you have a 1-to-1 client to staff ratio, that's amazing. Showcase that, right? So a numbers at a glance section can also be really helpful if you don't have these charts and graphs to be able to showcase on your website.
I also feel like besides the ability to persuade that numbers have, numbers are also visually different than letters. Bear with me. As someone is skimming your page, especially if they are losing interest, a number is a quick way to get them to re-enter the page. So if they're going down, they're tired of reading, boom, a number comes up. It's a pattern break. They look at it. And like Clint said, it's also extremely persuasive. So as you dot these things throughout your page and not just the number section, I think you will encourage people to do a little bit closer skim, even as they're trying to get off of your page. Let's jump into the next one, levels of care and therapies section.
Yeah, number 13, most people offer different levels of care if they have multiple facilities, or they offer different therapies. Spell it out, put it on those pages. Every single type of therapy you use, make sure that it's listed either bullet pointed, hyperlinked to a connected blog post about it, or have it somewhere within there, because people are often looking for a type of therapy. If I'm somebody who's struggling with borderline personality disorder and somebody tells me, my friend says, hey, you should try dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT, then now it becomes the thing that I'm looking for when I'm looking and comparing centers. And many people offer these things, but they don't spell it out for people on the pages. Right? They'll just say things like evidence-based therapy, but they don't say dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT. Trauma-informed care is a big one, right? And trauma-informed care is like not that we know trauma, it's that we view treatment through the lens of trauma. And people who have experienced trauma and have come to understand, maybe they were in like an individual therapy session and they're like, yo, you got some serious trauma that you got to work through. And it's going to be more than like once a week sessions. You're going to need a higher level of care. Those therapists who are looking to refer out their patients are also looking for trauma-informed care, because it's a lens through which they're understanding the best type of treatment for this person. So levels of care are the same way, right? I need to know if you have residential. I need to know if you have transitional living or sober living. I need to know if you have day treatment or IOP. Those are words that people often give to patients or clients when they're having them go search for things. That's why, at recovery.com, one of the things we do is we allow people to search based upon those things, right? Whether it's treatment modality or a condition or a substance that's treated or a level of care, because oftentimes there's a big intersection between those things, right? I need a treatment center that treats depression in Maine, that is in network with United and serves teens, right? That can be really challenging to figure out, but when you're able to spell that out for people, it's super helpful. So like on Sandstone Care, they have this toggle section where they have the different continuum from medical detox to intensive outpatient. And if you click each one of these, it populates an explanation of how many days this treatment is, right? How many weeks this treatment is, how many hours per day can somebody plan to be in there. Remember, assume that these people who are looking on your site know nothing, right? Oftentimes in behavioral health, we get so inundated with the jargon and the vernacular of our industry that we forget to be able to spell it out and to talk in the way that people actually who aren't familiar with this stuff say things. And so going back to basics and really giving those details, especially in a section, a clear section on your website that people can navigate to from a sticky header navigation or a table of contents, can be super helpful.
Yeah. And just one follow-up on that. I mean, imagine it's a very comprehensive organization. How do you kind of judge the balance between, I'm going to add the top 5 versus here's the entire Sears catalog of things that we offer?
Yeah. So some workarounds that I've seen with this, again, comes down to a toggle section. Okay. So for those of you who are listening and you can't see this, a great way to be able to assume this is in a horizontal line. There are different things. There's therapies, there's levels of care. And when you click each one of those things, different buttons populate or different sections populate. So people don't have to like read through everything. They can navigate and see what you have depending on it. I'm trying to think of like a comparable
It might
example.
be like tabs in an internet browser.
Yeah.
If you have a rectangle section on your page, it's got tabs. You can click into the tabs and then you can see what text explains that particular section.
Exactly. And when you can put all of those things right next to each other, it's really helpful. So recovery.com does this. And by the way, like if you're not looking on recovery.com to be able to determine what to do, what to include on your website, you're probably missing out. They have a treatment section, right? And in the treatment section, they break it down by specializations, treatment services, approaches, therapies, conditions we treat, substances we treat, and aftercare, right? And so they're all right there. And oftentimes they're also connected to an appropriate resource connected with that. Right. So I see co-occurring disorders. And for somebody who doesn't know what co-occurring or dual diagnosis is, I can click this and it goes to a resource page that explains and unpacks exactly what that is. It's good interlinking for your resources or your blogs. It's really helpful. It also helps you to understand what content you need to make as your pillar content. But it's very helpful for adding more text.
Yeah, right on. All right. We're getting there. Final stretch. Let's talk about maps. All about maps. People love maps.
Yeah, map embed. First question is, can you help me with what I'm struggling with? Second question, or do you understand what I'm going through? Second question, can you help me? The can you help me thing is like, are you close enough? Right? Most people want to go to treatment unless it's like a detox or a destination residential treatment. They need to go somewhere that's going to fit within their everyday schedule, especially for like outpatient therapy after school or after work, right? Is it close enough? And so having a map is really helpful with that. Having the address right up front, really helpful for that so that people can see it really clearly. It's also really good for search engines because it shows consistency between what's presented in the map pack for your Google business profile and what's being presented for your location page.
Lastly, Final CTA.
So there's an interesting psychological study that talked about people's affinity towards a music that was played for them on a record by putting different scratches within the music. So imagine a record player and they had a scratch at the beginning, they had a scratch in the middle, and they had a scratch at the end, right?
What does a record scratch sound like for someone who grew up in the MP3 era?
Oh yeah, I forget how young folks are. So basically just an abrupt noise that is jarring.
No. Can you make one, please?
I'd be like, yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's my best guess. The record stops, right? And so where do you think the record scratch had the biggest impact for people's affinity for the music?
I don't know. I can't imagine it's the beginning. Maybe the middle. Where is it?
It's actually at the end, right? So if the scratch was at the beginning, people could still listen to the music and be like, oh, it was a good song. If it was in the middle, they'd listen to it and they'd be like, that was kind of weird, but that was still a good song. But if it was at the end, most people said, actually, that was a bad song. And so it shows how important it is to be able to end well. And your location page is actually no different. So a lot of people are like, I don't know what to do at the end. How do I say goodbye or give somebody the next steps? And it's having a CTA section, a call to action section, right? Where you just specifically tell the person what you want them to do. People will do what you tell them, but you need to be extremely clear, right? So on Sandstone Care's website, at the very bottom, before you get to their footer, let's see what they have. It says, let's take the first step together. And then it has the call button and the verify insurance button. One bonus thing is it has a person looking at the CTA. So if you have people on your page and they're at a CTA, you always want them looking at the place you want them to click, right? So this person is looking down at the button, which is really helpful because it directs your eye towards that. It's like if I pointed behind your head, you'd want to look and see what that is. Same thing with the figures and the people that you use within your page. So be super clear, super short and abrupt, and let people know, let's take action, last chance, now call or verify insurance.
Right on. So ghosting is not a good idea.
Yeah. Don't put your resource. This is what people get wrong. They put their social media handles. Again, you don't want people to click away. They put the resources pages. You don't want people to look at your blog post. You actually don't want people to like click away from this kind of thing. You want people to just do the thing you want them to do, which is your call to action.
Let's say that a little bit louder for the people in the back, because I have seen related articles all the time. And the theory is, well, let's get them to engage deeper into the website. You're saying no.
Most of marketing is not about telling somebody something new. It is about repetition. Most of marketing is about repetition. Most of marketing is about repetition.
I see what you're doing there.
Yeah. And so we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. And so this is the final bit of that. It's saying, hey, oh yeah, I need to call or verify insurance is the next step. Think of it like Occam's razor. Occam's razor is saying, the principle says not what else can I add to this page to make it complete. It's saying, what can I take away and it still function in the way that I want it to? And usually you get something better when you take stuff away, not by adding stuff. People are like, well, we've got social media. Let's put our Instagram grid. We've got all these blog posts. Let's put the blog post there. And this is why a lot of people put their certifications at the end. They're like, oh yeah, we're certified. Like, well, let's put these logos here. Everything that they can remember that they also do, they try to put that at the end. Yeah. Don't do that. Just end the way you began by having a clear call to action of what you want someone to do next.
Yeah, perfect. All right, that was a lot. That was a action-packed episode, insights galore. Imagine someone who's listening to this and they have 3 days to themselves at work and they want to do maybe 2-3 of these. What are you going to say are the most impactful ones that you could do?
Yeah, so I would start at the top of the list. The top of the list is going to be best because we're not going to focus on the CTA at the end, right? Because if the stuff at the top and your hero section and your header navigation, if the calls to action at the top are not good, then people are never going to scroll down. If you don't have a table of contents, people are never going to find that stuff. So start at the top, work your way down. I tried to structure it in a way to be able to say, hey, here's the most important things first.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Start at the top. Strong CTA, sticky navigation, make that hero section immediately accessible and full of credibility, and have a sticky table of content. So you help people skim to what they want to know as soon as they want to know it.
Absolutely. And remember, if you want some support with this for that credibility, the recovery.com badge, all you got to do is claim your profile. It's free. We'll give it to you. It's very helpful for credibility. And Project Alumni, if you want us to film, record in our virtual studio, no matter where you're at in the United States or even outside of the United States, people can click that link. People can record it on their phone or on their desktop using a webcam. We'll edit it, add music, share it with you, promote your site on recovery.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Clint.
Thank you.
That's our show today. Hopefully you learned something that you can put into motion this week. You can find links to all that we talked about in the description on YouTube or in the show notes on your favorite streaming platform. Remember, the better your business, the more people you can help.